Good afternoon. Welcome to the College of Engineering Virtual Brown Bag Series, which is something that we have been having since the beginning of the fall semester. My name is Gautam Das. I'm the Associate Dean for Research, College of Engineering. And it's my pleasure today to welcome our guest speaker, Ernest Huffman, who is going to talk about a very interesting topic titled Integration Autonomous Drone Tech into the DFW Metroplex. Drones are a hot topic of research these days, and many of us are very involved with that. It spans a lot of departments in College of Engineering, computer science, electrical engineering, mechanical aerospace. We also do a lot of drone research at UTARI. Civil engineering does a lot of that too. So it should be very interesting for everybody here. So let me introduce our speaker today a little bit more. Ernest Huffman was born and raised in Syracuse, New York. He received his bachelor's in aeronautical science from Dowling College and a master's in aviation from Florida Institute of Technology. So he has about 17 years of experience in the industry. He worked all over the country as an aviation consultant, including his work as an airline technical rep designated with managing the development of the O'Hare Airport's modernization program. So he was there in Chicago for a while. And for the last few years, 4 or 5 years, he has been in the DFW area. His current role is the Aviation Planning and Education Program Manager for North Central Texas Council of Governments. He manages numerous programs there, including Aviation Education Initiative, Regional Aviation System Plan, and the North Texas UAS Safety and Integration Task Force. And he has a lot of ties with UTA, so it's our pleasure to welcome him. Ernest.
Thank you, Dr. Das. I appreciate your time. And I want to thank you guys for bringing me in to brief you on what we're doing to integrate autonomous drone technology into the DFW Metroplex. As Dr. Das mentioned, I am the Aviation Planning and Education Program Manager for North Central Texas Council of Governments. North Central Texas Council of Governments is the DFW region's metropolitan planning organization, which means we do a lot of the surface area transportation planning for the region. I manage the planning from the aviation side, meaning all of our 50+ airports and making sure that they have safe, efficient integration into existing transportation systems like road, rail, and bus. Now, to get into the topic, I want to first give you a definition of what drone technology is, or what a drone. So drone technology in the context of what I'm going to be speaking of today is professionally called unmanned aircraft systems. Unmanned aircraft systems are the unmanned aircraft and any associated elements, including communication links and the components that control the unmanned aircraft that are required for the pilot in command to operate safely and efficiently in the national airspace system. So when I'm talking in the context I'm speaking of drones today, it's not the aircraft, it's the pilot, it's the radars, it's the sensors, and any other enabling technology that would allow drones to fly in an autonomous way in our airspace. So how are drones or UAS technology currently being used in the Metroplex? So in an urban environment, you'll see drones working in a recreational perspective, used for aerial photography and surveying, infrastructure analysis and inspections. There are numerous agricultural applications. Drones are used for rail and road inspections, package delivery. Law enforcement uses drones efficiently for search and rescue operations. City police and fire departments have numerous applications for drone tech. Drones are also being used in classrooms to introduce students to the aviation industry and aviation careers, and getting students interested in becoming pilots, engineers, robotics engineers, software engineers, avionics technicians, etc. So just some quick numbers on drone technology as it currently stands. Drones do have the potential to be a $500 billion market in the United States. In the 2019 FAA's forecast, they say that registered UAS users are expected to increase from 110,000 to 450,000 by 2022. Recreational drone aircraft are expected to increase from $1.7 million, that was in 2018, to $3.17 million by 2022. There are going to be 300,000 new commercial UAS pilots needed by 2022. And in 2019, the DFW region had the 4th most reckless drone sightings in the country. There's some more quick numbers. As in 2019, there were over 180,000 Part 107 or professional drone pilots registered, or certified drone pilots, not professional. There were $87.8 million flights of drone tech in the year 2019, according to DJI. DJI also states that 470 million people were rescued from peril by drones. Construction companies report 65% improvement in collaboration and 53% reduced time to data insights. And insurance companies save on average 5.5 hours of time and over $300 per inspection, while cell tower inspections, the cost has been reported to have been reduced by as much as 50% by utilizing drone technology. So when we're talking about autonomous drone operations, this is a chart or a table that depicts what we mean. So there's 5 different levels of drone autonomy. The first level, or 6 levels when you include 0, and that's no automation, where the drone is 100% controlled manually, meaning there's a pilot who controls every function on the drone. Level 1 automation is where a pilot remains in control, but the drone has control of at least one vital function. So that drone may be able to control its velocity, it might be able to control its camera, something on the drone has a small amount of control of, but for the most part, the pilot's in control. Partial automation, and that's level 2, where the pilot remains responsible for safe operation, but the drone can take over headings, altitude under certain conditions, meaning you can program the flight path on most modern drones now, where and you can, by utilizing GPS technology, tell the airplane or the drone where to fly, where to take off and land. It's automated, but the pilot's still responsible for that operation. Then there's conditional automation. That's where the pilot acts as a failback or redundant system, and the drone can perform all function given certain conditions. But the pilot, just like, and I use the example of when you're going through driver's license training, or you have a driver instructor, the driver to the instructor has control, can take over control of the vehicle. I think you can start or apply brakes on the vehicle, but the student is still primarily responsible for the operation of that aircraft. And that's what level 3 conditional automation is. High automation is where the pilot is completely out of the loop. The drone has backup or redundant systems so that if one fails, it can perform and still be operational. And then last but not least is full automation. And that's where the drone is able to use AI tools to plan their flights as autonomous learning systems, meaning you'd set a mission for the drone and the drone can determine when it does it, how it does it, all autonomously based off of AI technology. And that's full automation. And that's where we're trying to go with the technology. Why are autonomous drone operations important? Why do we care? Why is it important? It's simple. It's all about the money. The most efficient and effective business case around drone tech is all centered around automation. Automation cuts out the most, or the higher cost center, which is labor. And that's by far the highest cost center in aviation. And in order for drones to be cost efficient, because they're electric powered and they fly shorter durations, to get rid of the pilot makes the most sense. So for you to have full autonomous package delivery, fully autonomous air taxis, that's the only way these companies would invest in developing this technology, because without it, the labor costs centered around the labor would make these technologies and the operation of such cost prohibitive, and we wouldn't have this upswell within this industry. So it's all about the money. What are some of the future uses for drone tech? And all the ones I'm going to discuss are automated. So we're going to have the opportunities for automated food and package delivery, automated accident and or emergency response. So for example, you call 911, a drone is immediately dispatched to your location to assess what's going on the ground, allow law enforcement and public safety officials to see what's going on before they even get there, and they have a plan developed that could save time and money and lives. Automated security surveillance. So your ADT smoke detector or your home alarm, your burglary alarm goes off. ADT, whoever your security operator can send a drone and allow law enforcement to see what's going on site. Automated mapping and surveying. So just imagine if you're a city official or a city planner or whoever's responsible for maintaining and inspecting critical infrastructure within your city. You just set your schedule for your drones to do the work. The drones go out, automatically collect the data for you, for your technicians to be able to service and analyze that information in the house or in the building without ever having to go. It's going to save time and money to do it that way. And last but not least, the most exciting application that people like to hear about is the automated air taxi or urban air mobility. And simply put, just think of the Jetsons, where you'll hit a button on your phone. It can be your Uber button, your Uber app saying you want to get from here to there. An aircraft that's you'll get on your aircraft and it gets you to where you need to be. When you get to where you need to be, you'll get off that aircraft and another Uber or a Lyft or whatever you take will be waiting for you to get you to your final destination. That's the most exciting application, and that's something that's going to be coming soon too, and I'll discuss that a little bit more going forward. You can see the picture on the left. That's a picture of Bell Flight's Air Nexus technology, and that's an air taxi concept that they're working on now for companies like Uber. Now, there are numerous barriers to autonomous UAS integration into a metropolitan area. The first and the biggest one is obviously safety. If we can't demonstrate that these aircraft can operate safely in a metropolitan area over people, places, and things, then the industry won't take off. So we need to first demonstrate safety, and all that stuff is going on now behind the scenes. Industry collaboration. When we started our task force efforts maybe 2 years ago, there wasn't very much industry collaboration around the world on these issues. Luckily, since then, there's been a huge upswell of collaboration from industry, government, etc., around the country and world, and we know that that's key to being able to solve a lot of these integration issues we're having with drone tech. Public engagement and perception. Public engagement up until maybe 2 years ago, maybe up till last year, was lacking. And so overall, the general public doesn't know much about drone technology. Typically, when you think of drone tech, and this was the case for me before 2018, there were only negative applications I associated with it. In particular, drones being used in the military arena to kill people, or by terrorists to kill people, or in movies to kill people. So we need to do a better job in engaging the public, educating them on drone tech's uses, why it's important, what careers are available, and also what we're not going to be using drones to do in a metropolitan area. Education and training, huge issue with integrating any new industry is making sure that the proper education is out there and that there's standardized training so we can trust the training that folks are getting in and around a technology that can be as unsafe as drones. Good thing is educational institutions like yourself have already picked up the ball and are starting with drone research and making sure that there are courses offered to their students around drone education. But we still got a long way to go to make sure that it's adequate to meet the future needs of which this next piece is workforce and the workforce development. The way I think of drone tech, and a lot of us aviators think of it as the next horizon in aviation. We see it as a profound, transformative industry where there's going to be a vast need for a new workforce that needs to be developed. We're trying to develop that workforce in our region. In particular, those drone manufacturers need folks on the ground who can design these drones, manufacture them. Software engineers is a huge need by the bells of the world. Law enforcement folks, they need folks who can operate drones efficiently. We're going to need pilots for these air taxis when they come online, because the initial application won't be automated. They'll have a pilot. So that workforce development, that's a key need for any new industry, and there's no exception here with drones. Regulations. The federal regulations are far behind the technology around this. The FAA has taken a crawl, walk, run approach, and they're still in the crawl phase in terms of regulations and understanding the technology and how it's going to impact existing or manned aviation, existing aviation. So that needs to be sussed out. Technology. A lot of the technology for automated drone operations is here, but I might as well lump infrastructure in here. The technology around what's needed at the infrastructure level, as well as the battery technology, still needs to be worked out, and that's ongoing. And that leads me to infrastructure, where we need to make sure that the cities that are operating this tech have the radar tech, have the building facilities, have all of these aircraft are going to be battery or electric powered, so they're not using traditional or historical funding fuel sources, because it's too expensive to operate at this level. So it's going to be all electric powered. We're going to need charging stations, docking stations for all of these drones. All that stuff still needs to be worked out, in particular from an infrastructure perspective in our major cities. So what is DFW? What are we doing in the DFW region to prepare for this? Because we need to be prepared, in particular because air taxi operations, companies like Uber, want to use the DFW region as their first places to operate. So we want to make sure we're prepared. First things first, university research. I think majority of our four-year institutions in the region are undergoing or currently undertaking drone-related university research efforts. We want to continue. We want to continue to assist you folks in doing that, and that's a big time step that's going to help us move towards automation. We're currently leading the nation in public safety drone adoption. We have what's called our Public Safety Unmanned Response Team and Committee. That's a group of law enforcement entities or public safety entities that have come together to form a collaborative effort with all of our region cities, making sure that they have all the resources they need to have a viable, safe drone program that's used to protect and serve in our Metroplex. We've seen adoption of UAS-related curriculum at all school levels, and that's from grade school all the way to the university level. And we have some professional drone training, a lot of professional drone training going on in the region. Drone manufacturers. We got big time manufacturers like Bell who are working on drone tech, and they're doing small to large drones. And we have a lot of small related drone manufacturers, such as Newcastle Manufacturing out of Mineral Wells, Martin UAV in Plano, and others who are working on drone manufacturing. That particular industry, manufacturing of drone tech, is going to take off here because the federal government has started to prohibit the use of Chinese-made drones. 70% of the drone market has been dominated by Chinese manufactured drones. So the increase of US-based drone manufacturing is coming. We want to make sure a lot of that is housed here to meet the needs of our workforce. We have the North Texas UAS Safety and Integration Task Force that I lead, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. And then we've been collaborating nationally and internationally as a region with both the Urban Air Mobility Policy Collaborative and the NASA's Advanced Air Mobility Working Group. So the Urban Air Mobility Policy Collaborative is a collaborative of the major metropolitan areas in the country, where we're all working on standardized policy for our regions around drone integration, in particular urban air mobility. And then there's the NASA Advanced Air Mobility Working Groups. These are technical working groups where NASA is encouraged other stakeholders to come together with them to work on a lot of the technical issues around drone integration that I mentioned earlier. Our North Texas UAS Safety and Integration Task Force. These are our objectives. And before I get into the objectives, I just want to mention we started the task force in 2018 around the need. Our airports had issues with reckless drone operations, and they wanted to know how we could solve it. So we started the task force, and the goal is to promote UAS safety and standardization, mitigate reckless drone operations, promote the integration of UAS tech into the region's airspace. And we wanted to do so by collaborating with region partners on a coordinated, comprehensive approach. Now, our initiative encompasses all the activities and also the task force. And we look at the task force, we're working on 5 main integration issues, okay? One is education, in particular public education. And this public education public education is centered around the general education on the public on drone safety, where you can fly in the Metroplex safely, how to get your pilot's license as a drone pilot, where you can go to school for drone related careers, what those drone careers are, etc., is all in our public education piece. Our legislation piece is where we look at, from a task force perspective, all manner of legislation on drone tech, from the local all the way up to federal levels. We also have I think we might have 3 bills now around drone tech in Austin for this upcoming session, all to ensure we have safe drone operations in the Metroplex. Then there's training, where we look at promoting and creating efficient, safe, standardized training at all levels in the region to make sure that our students and the folks flying drones in our area have the best training possible. And that's all going to improve the safety of our airspace. Then we look at testing, where we're encouraging cities in development of drone testing corridors and demonstration tech demo projects around package delivery, air taxi, etc. And then last but not least, public awareness is where we're looking at improving the public awareness of the general public on drone tech, what drones are being used for, how they're beneficial to you in your daily life, what careers are available, and then some of the things we're not going to be using drones for in the Metroplex to make sure we have a public acceptance. When we started the task force, we might have had 20 members, and now we've grown to 270 plus, and I think it's probably closer to 300. I have a lot of folks I haven't added on yet that have asked, with 130 plus organizations represented in the stakeholder group, and various groups represented are the airports, all the cities, military officials, public safety, the UAS industry, meaning the trainers, educators, manufacturers, universities, and as well as folks from the NCT COG staff. Notable accomplishments to date is getting all those groups and organizations collaborating. We created our first public education campaign called Know Before You Fly Your Drone workshops that we're going to start doing virtually. We were doing them in person, but we're going to start doing virtually, where we teach and educate the general public and any other interested folks on drone safety, where to fly, where to get your training, what jobs are available, all that stuff. So that's being done. The helping assist our public safety UAS response team that's been very efficient in getting funding and getting endorsements from drone manufacturers and getting programming and stuff like that to the various jurisdictions in our region. Help with mineral wells and their establishment of a UAS testing site out there. To help with a vendor in the first Department of Labor UAS apprenticeship program, where the Dallas County Community College District they were paying students to learn to become professional drone pilots, and then all the school districts in our region creating drone courses and our help with that. But just to give a quick conclusion, folks, I just want you to know drones are here to stay. You may not have seen a lot of those aircraft flying in your area, but drones are trending towards being something that's going to be part of your daily life. You're going to see a lot of them. And we want folks at the university level to continue to engage with the drone industry, because we need your help. We need students' help. We need faculty help. We need educators' help, and moving the buck forward in this new transformative industry. An industry, by the way, that if you had kids that are looking for a place to go, and especially if they're interested in technology and new technology, read a lot of science fiction, the drone industry as the next horizon in aviation is a place we want them all looking, because we're going to need every level of student engaged doing every level of work in this new transformative industry. I currently have a position opening for a transportation planner 1 or 2 position. It's not an intern level position, so somebody who may have a year to 3 years experience in probably community planning. I'm really looking for airport planning, but probably won't be able to get that. Community planning, any level of planning, and any manner of marketing experience. I need somebody to help me on the marketing side of things, my outreach efforts, my outreach for the task force, etc. And just to close things out, I want to show you folk a quick video created by Uber Air that gives you a great indicator, a great view into what urban air mobility is going to look like in the Metroplex. And it's going to look this way. And just to give you a quick bit of information, Uber is looking to be operational with their Uber Air concept by 2023. Those aircraft won't be automated. They'll have pilots, but you'll see air taxis probably in our area by 2023, 2024. But here's this quick video that I'd like to show. One second, guys. Make sure I'm sharing my audio. There we go. Doctor, let me know if you see my the video up.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, here, well, I was trying to get my contact information up for you guys. There's my contact information.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Huffman. This is an amazing presentation. So to the audience, if you have any questions, there is a Q&A chat, so please make sure you type your questions there, and I will be monitoring it, and I will be reading it out to our presenter today. So please don't be shy. Feel free to ask questions. I'm sure that you have a lot of questions on this very exciting presentation that we just heard. So Ernest, I had a question for you to start things off. I mean, when I see a lot of these videos and a lot of promotional material on what the future is, right? Where are we right now? For example, in a metro environment, when you give those different examples of the kind of drone technology that goes from fully manual to fully automated, right? Where
Yeah.
are we right now? What's the state
So,
of art?
so currently they got drones. They have drones that are operating probably up to level 4, but those are typically military applications.
Okay.
So from a commercial service standpoint, they got drones maybe up to level 3 automation that are able to legally operate. So because the main issue, the regulations aren't there. The regulations prohibit you from operating over people, pretty much people, places, and things. And until those regulations are sussed out, that full automation, we can't get to that point because the FAA is just not allowing you to fly in those.
Okay, so what you're saying is that technologically we are at level 3, maybe beyond level 4 and all that.
Yep.
It's just that in real applications we are nowhere close, right? Because of regulatory restrictions.
Correct.
Right. So again, speaking of applications, you had a slide where you had a bunch of, obviously very compelling applications, right? Could we just go over to that slide? Because I had a few questions on that one too. Again, the question would be like, what is really being done right now and what is planned for the future?
Are you talking about the picture I had showing?
No. You had a list of, different kinds of applications, probably very early in your talk. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Sorry. This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are future uses.
They're all future? Okay.
So a lot of these are being done, but they're just not automated.
Okay.
So for example, food and package delivery, accident and emergency response, search and rescue, security, crop dusting, mapping and surveying. Folks are using drones to do that. It's just not an automated process.
So it's level 0 or it's actually a manned helicopter or something like that? I mean, that has been done.
Probably more like level 1 and 2.
Level 1 and 2.
Because a lot of the drones have computers on board that allow them, you can program them to do certain flight paths. But the way the regulations are currently set up, a pilot in command always has to have eyes on that drone. So the drone can never fly further than you can see.
I see. Okay.
In an automated environment, you wouldn't have that condition.
I see. Interesting. So all of this is future, okay. And what's the prediction for these timelines? Do we have any predictions as to when this is going to be reality? I know you said Uber thinks they can get taxis in the next 3 years.
So the air taxi issue, all the manufacturers and the operators aren't trying to be automated anytime. They're not trying to be initially automated. They're going to have piloted aircraft.
Okay.
So because of that, they can operate now if they had the aircraft certified to fly. There currently is not an air taxi aircraft certified to fly by the FAA. They have 33 manufacturers that have applications in now, where they're trying to work at getting them certified, meaning they're safe enough to fly. They've demonstrated that they can operate efficiently over a long period of time in various conditions in the metropolitan area. That hasn't happened yet. So, but yeah, Uber and companies like Bell are anticipating having that manned air taxi available to use in cities as early as 2023 or 4.
So when you say manned, do you mean
pilot?
A pilot inside the vehicle or a pilot
inside the vehicle?
Oh, okay. But isn't that the same as a helicopter, or am I being too naive here?
Well, right. Traditionally, you would say so, but the goal is to take these aircraft and convert. The difference is they're going to be electric powered. So all electric powered, that's what they're looking at. And they fly at a lot lower altitudes, more consistently than helicopters do. So it's traditionally the same technology with some differences to it. And then the way they're building the birds now is where eventually they can switch to full automation in that same aircraft. And just remove the pilot from the cockpit and go like that. Whereas helicopters aren't built to do that at the moment.
I see. Okay. There's a question from the audience. So will air traffic controllers at DFW and other airports manage the air traffic from these new air transport vehicles, or will there be more air traffic stations?
So that's a great question. The FAA is trying to figure that out now. The industry doesn't want air traffic control involved in this portion. There'd probably be a whole nother air traffic control system. It wouldn't be DFW or Love Field's air traffic controllers monitoring this technology, this traffic. No, well, they'll monitor it, but they won't be have any influence on its operation. It'll be another system in place for that.
I see. Okay. And another question: is there anybody in DFW, anyone in DFW currently providing commercial UAS pilot licensing?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's really easy to get your commercial pilot's license. It's a $200 exam, and it probably take you a weekend of studying. There's no applied knowledge application that you have to show off. You don't even have to show that you know how to fly a drone. You just need to demonstrate on this test that you have a general knowledge of airmanship, airspace, and aviation safety, as well as drone regulation and drone laws. You got to know a bit about that to get the pilot's license. But yeah, there are a plethora of organizations, training institutions in play, and even schools that are doing giving out training for the drone license.
I think we've lost Dr. Doss for a second, so I'll ask you some questions that were posed in the Q&A chat.
Yep.
The first one is, drone flying is currently limited to an altitude of 400 feet. The applications discussed in the area like Dallas would likely require higher altitudes. How is airspace management going to change in an area like DFW with 2 major airports plus many smaller municipal ones?
Yeah, so the goal though is to keep a lot of this activity under a certain threshold and in that 400-foot envelope. As a matter of fact, majority of the drone applications you hear of and see are going to be in that 400-foot bank. But the current mitigation effort that people are going through now is determining how to manage that airspace. And they may set up flight corridors, so meaning you'll have a certain level of airspace that's only used for this type of technology, but manned aviation is almost always over 500 feet. You don't want them operating that low in your cities anyway. So I think they're gonna start creating flight corridors, different height levels where you can operate certain aircraft in.
You're on mute, Galton.
Yeah, so a question I had was, just like you have different levels of technology, drone technology, do you also anticipate having kind of different levels of regulations? Like initially when the drones are not that sophisticated, you have, a simpler set of regulations, and then as drones get more and more sophisticated, you have more regulatory control over them. Is there somebody who's planning these things?
Well, no, what they're building, and that's why the FAA's they're in what they call, I mentioned the crawl, crawl, walk, run.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to write the regulations that accommodate the future applications now. Okay. And that's why they're working with industry to understand what that is. Mm-hmm. But all that's still being developed on what that's going to finally look like. We know how we want to operate, okay, but there are many ways to skin that cat, and that's what we're developing in all those working groups and those collaborative efforts with the FAA and NASA. So I think all of that's going to come about, but the FAA are looking to frame and formulate the regulations now to fill in those blanks later.
I see. Okay. So I have a question from the audience. So it's an interesting question, I think. You mentioned some challenges of using drones. I didn't say anything about privacy concerns associated with them. I mean, I think I remember you mentioned privacy very early on that, you know, some of the negative connotations of drones, but besides that, you didn't really talk much about that.
Yeah. You know, I was talking about public perception in drones. Yeah, and that's just, it's going to take an education to the general public on what drones are and how they're used. Typically, people have issues with privacy concerns with drones, but the big thing is they're no different than a person with a video camcorder, their cell phone. It's just all about the intent of the operator, and we can't govern that.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's much harder to control drones with cameras versus, you know, people on the ground with cameras, right? So
No,
I mean, no,
it's the same. Who's there to enforce any of it? But well, drones will be easier to enforce because they're developing a radar system where you can find where the drone is. The law enforcement can find where the pilot is, that kind of deal. Every drone is going to be required to have a location device in it, what they're calling remote identification. So that will help mitigate in the future a lot of these privacy concerns that folk have. Because yeah, drones can be used to do a lot of nefarious things. So that's why we need the infrastructure in place in our cities to detect where these drones are, to give law enforcement and other concerned folks the opportunity to question the operator and prosecute if they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. But all that's going to be in place where cities are going to have full. DFW has one right now, a radar system that can detect drones for 30 miles out.
Oh wow!
And any time a drone comes close to their airspace, they respond. They can
So
find
30 miles, but what altitude also?
The altitude is up there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because what they're looking is to mitigate reckless drone flights, and people who are flying recklessly don't care about the altitude they're operating at. A lot of these folks.
You know, the reason why I asked this question is because there was this news article a few weeks ago about it's not a drone, it's supposedly some guy with a jetpack at LAX airport.
Really?
Yeah, so this was, I think, a commercial airline pilot spotted somebody on a jetpack, and that too at a tremendous height, about 3,000 feet or whatever. You know, as he was approaching LAX, and he reported, and there were some others who reported it. But I would think that a surveillance system like a radar would have spotted this.
Oh yeah, no, it'd have to. If you're looking for nefarious or reckless drone users, they're not gonna operate in a 400-foot umbrella. They're gonna want to go as high as they can, and they're gonna play. So, no, the radar system will be able to detect all aircraft to as high as you can, 30,000 feet, maybe in some instances, and particularly around airports.
You know, the discussion on privacy also kind of segues into another issue of security. I mean, these controls, if drones can be hacked into, they can be a real problem, right? So.
And I meant to add that on my slide because I thought about this last night. But yeah, we've been starting to engage the cybersecurity industry to get them in here to engage our cities to make sure all of that is built into any infrastructure, any tech. That's very important.
Right. So where is DFW ranked vis-a-vis other metro areas in terms of, I guess, adoption of drone technology or kind of being a player in unmanned systems?
So some say, me personally, I feel we're tops in a lot of places. Like for example, law enforcement. As I mentioned, we're number one, I would say. But a lot of other states and regions in the country are further than us because they've gotten significant investment, financial investment. Like for example, New York State, they got maybe close to $50 to $60 million from the state of New York, as well as an additional $25 million by private corporations to build up flight corridors, detection radar systems. They have drone industry incubator up there. So they've done a great job of trying to make their area a center of gravity. North Dakota, they have a drone port. They've invested the tune of maybe $60 million in building up drone infrastructure, pipeline inspections. They have a huge center of gravity up there. There may be there may be 5 or 6 other areas that I feel are ahead of us because they have money and we don't.
So which ones should there be?
Which areas?
Yeah.
So there's Syracuse, North Dakota, I would say LA, Virginia, the state of Virginia, the state of Oklahoma. And there's one more that I'm missing right now. But they're all ahead of us because and that's not even counting other countries.
I see. Okay.
But we have the opportunity to get ahead of them simply because of our aviation manufacturing and pedigree down here in our workforce. That's why a lot of these companies are interested in being here because they recognize that. And educational institutions like yourself who are doing a great job of placing students at these places, we have a great opportunity to overtake them, in particular in the manufacturing, software development, that side of things.
So there's a question from the audience, maybe related to some of the discussions we've already had, but still, what about if they are used by government for surveillance purposes? Right.
So one of the things we're working on as a task force is to outline what governments aren't going to be using drones for. Currently, cops can't use drones to surveil anything. You just can't. In the state of Texas, it's illegal for cops to use the drones for surveillance purposes.
But when you're responding to a 911 call, so that's a different use.
That's different.
Right?
That's not surveillance. That's response. So surveillance is when you're there before something actually happens. You're watching just in case, and they can't use drones for that. So and that's the case in a lot of cities.
But wouldn't that be limiting? I mean, you have cops in their cars, doing their beats, right? That's sort of like surveillance in some sense. So why wouldn't they allow drones to do the same thing?
Well, I guess it's surveillance on people. Surveillance on people. They can't use it to build a case on someone. Like, for example, if you're a drug lord or something, they can't use it to surveil you in that way. Yet. And it is limited to them, but it can be abused by folks in law enforcement if it's not set up properly. So until we have the laws written where it can be abused, I like it staying the way it is, where they can't use them to do surveillance and things like that on folks.
I see. And yeah, that's actually interesting. So let's say I'm in my backyard. I have a privacy fence. The whole idea is that I don't want people to see me from the street. So is it legal for government or I don't know, some other people to fly
it's illegal for anyone to record or photograph anything on your property without your permission with a drone.
To what height? I mean, clearly there are, so you can fly by, but you cannot record or.
No.
Okay.
It's illegal.
Interesting.
Now, that's caused a lot of operational issues with folks who are doing work professionally because they legally, like, for example, if we have a 911 department who uses drones to do surveying on new developments that aren't currently on Google Maps, like a brand new subdevelopment that's being built and the streets are new and they're not in an official database yet. They've been using drones to survey those areas. They weren't able to do it without the permission of every landowner in that area.
Interesting. Okay.
And cops can't do it. Cops need permission too to do certain things over your land too.
Okay. So there's another question, different change of topic to something interesting. So are they going to be safe for the environment?
Yes, that's the main goal, is to make sure that they're as safe as possible. That's why one of the primary reasons why they're electrically powered. They're not going to use any fossil fuels or anything like that. The emissions and the noise issues are supposed to be extremely low. Just imagine you got a swarm of air taxis, right? If there were traditional helicopters, that would be extremely loud in your neighborhoods. So these aircraft are going to operate significantly quieter. They're supposed to be developed to the point where you're not really supposed to know they're there.
Okay. So I mean, I'm probably exposing my ignorance, but electric air taxis, how close are we to building air taxis that can carry 4 humans for, let's say, across a metro?
There are 33 applications to get their aircraft certified now with FAA. So a lot of these folks think they're really close.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought that the energy density of batteries is not still good enough for air transportation across distances such as 50 miles. But
That's why initially they're going to be real short hop flights.
Okay.
So you probably travel 20, 30 miles at a time. Plano to downtown, Arlington to downtown, Fort Worth to downtown. Stops.
Right.
With hopefully high charge or fast charging batteries. But yeah, they definitely want the battery issue to be, that really needs to be fixed for them to be a really viable economic alternative. And they'll get there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they can't travel that far yet, fully battery powered.
Right. Yeah. So Tracy, do we have any more questions from the audience at this point?
I don't see any more. If anybody wants to ask any questions, this is your last chance.
Right. But even if you don't get to ask questions right now, if you want to ask some questions later on, please feel free to send us email. We will certainly make sure that Ernest gets them, and hopefully he can respond back to you. Want to thank you very much for your very, very interesting discussion in our presentation today. I think I myself learned a lot, and I hope the audience did too. Appreciate you coming here, spending your time here. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And I really appreciate UTA and your continued engagement with our task force and with all of our stakeholders. You guys have been a valuable asset to what we're doing. And I look forward to future collaboration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Joss, we do have one final question in the chat.
Oh, we do?
We do.
Oh, somebody came at the very end. Let me see. Oh, so what are the funding opportunities for doing research in this area?
That's been a tough thing. And that's been really hard for me to get my finger on, because I don't have a background in finding funding, but you guys have been really good at getting NSF grants. And traditionally, I've seen a lot of that been going on. NASA periodically has been has been allocating research funds to certain initiatives that they've had. But yeah, the opportunities for funding have been few and far between. We hope to see a lot more of that going forward. But primarily, a lot of this research development has been funding privately by these corporations.
Okay.
And folks like NSF and others.
All right. So I think we'll stop at this. Thank you very much, Mr. Huffman, for giving this wonderful presentation. And for the audience, we're going to be continuing this series. We will have many more exciting talks and presentations for the rest of this semester. Feel free to join in every Friday. I will be your host whenever I'm available, or else one of my colleagues are going to host this. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.